The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Welcome to another thrilling episode of McGee Uncensored Podcast. I'm the creator and host, McGee. This episode will be a special looking back, a retrospective, if you will, a turning point in my life. Going to take it all the way back, timeline-wise, August 2004. That's when I decided to go back to college. After a successful stint at community college, taking a year off. Well, the year off wasn't what I wanted. An entire year off wasn't the plan. I thought I'd just take the fall, go back in the spring, and I decided to just take the year off. And I already had a degree, so I wanted to look for work. I digress. We're going to go back. I made the important decision in spring of 2004 to go back to California University of Pennsylvania. Major reason, I wanted to get a degree in communications, and I wanted to be on a radio. Growing up, I would listen to what was WVCS, and while my tenure there was changed to WCAL 91.9 FM. And in a later episode, I'll be talking about my radio days and why I like radio more than TV. Switching gears back to August 2004, I already been accepted, and I met a group of people who I became very close with, a good group of people that I stay in contact with to this very day. Now, we may not see each other as much as we like, but we do communicate as often as possible, each forging our own path. My path leading me to my bedroom studio podcast. Now, I'm going to do this as best from memory as I can, and I can recall my first year of college pretty well. What I'm trying to avoid is naming people who just don't need the attention or who did not play that vital of a role in life during that time or now. One of the first individuals I had befriended early on, name is Vinnie Cauchin. Yes, the Vinnie Cauchin, the one who would be KLU marching band's, I call it drum major because I was in a band in high school, drum major for 3 years, and a future roommate. Met Vinny through a guy on my floor, because Vinny had lived on the second floor. A guy on third floor, his name was Dan Campbell, who was in the band, and who would brag about his large member that nobody would really care to listen to. He was from the eastern shore of Maryland, in case anybody wants a quick geography lesson. Dan Campbell was. Vinnie Cauchin currently resides from Conemaugh Township, in beautiful, scenic Somerset Township. Somerset County. There's a Somerset Township, and he's from Somerset County. One of the first things I noticed about Vinny was his penchant to wear shirts without sleeves. I guess he was letting those guns breathe. Vinny also had a very eccentric roommate by the name of Ryan Benzinger, who would pop in and out when nobody else wanted to hang out with him. And shame on those people on the second floor who said that he looked like Jack Black. I don't know where they got the comparison from, but if you knew the people on the second floor who were the honor students at the time, you could see why they found it sort of fascinating to compare somebody to a movie star. No, but Vinny's a very talented musician. Influenced grunge rock a lot, I think. I know Kurt Cobain he liked. I'm not his biographer. I'm just, talking about what I know at the time. Fast as hell, man. We played pickup football on the lot that now sits a parking garage. One of the fastest white guys I ever seen. Loved wearing bandanas. Loved shaving his chest. Liked to do an imitation of me once in a while. But I never really thought I was a person that you could really imitate. But, he gave it a valiant effort, and kudos. But, when you first start to get to know people at college, everybody's quiet. I don't know if it's like I don't say a chess match, but you try to feel each other out. I'm comfortable in almost any setting once I start to warm up. Vinny had started out being a comm studies major like myself, and he grew tired of the courses, I guess you could say, and he ended up switching to journalism later on next semester. I stuck it out, and I'll be talking about my time in a looking back episode later on down the road, my time in communication studies. As the semester progressed, we befriended Brian Pless, Alex Copeland, Brett Kern, Joe Black, and the core of us would hang out in the third floor lounge, along with Brian's girlfriend, Katie. Now, little did I know that Brian didn't even live in our building. I don't think I knew Brian didn't live in our building until he actually transferred to the building the spring semester. I thought this whole time he lived in building A, but no, he was staying with his girlfriend Katie. Brian and Alex, I think we're friends through Katie, I believe. I'll put an asterisk next to that if I'm wrong. If Brian takes a listen, he could correct me. I think we quickly built a relationship. The funny thing is, I was the only one originally on the third floor who would hang out in the third floor lounge. Alex was living on the fourth floor. He would later move down to the third floor. Like I said, Brian never lived in our building. And Benny was down on the second, and he'd come up, because if you knew who he lived with, you'd see why he'd come up and hang out with us all the time. I honestly don't know how we all formed really a friendship. I don't know if it was through, like I said, Dan Campbell, somewhat. And I haven't talked to that guy in over 10 years. So can't forget Mike Sunday. Mike Sunday would play acoustic guitar in the breezeway of Building A. He would put on little mini concerts, free of admission, and three of us would go down when we're bored and take a seat on a bench, and whether or not we wanted to listen, Mike would always play a tune of the same Yellow Card song, reminiscing about his days on the bench being a lacrosse player. He had an interesting relationship with Robin Keltz, if anybody remembers that. Yeah, I have too much in my mind that I remember, and it's either a good thing or a bad thing. And I figure why not do a podcast and talk about everything and get it out. Alex and Brian were playing Fable one day in the lounge. I made my way down there, and I sat, and I said, "Oh, is that Fable?" They said, "Yeah." And I could, early on, like I said, it was early on in the semester, I could tell, like, what's this guy doing here? We're trying to play Fable. Why is he coming down? What am I going to do? Is he going to kick us out? No, I'm not a mean person. I'm not a bully. I don't do that kind of things. So they had nothing to worry about. You see, I was 22 when I went back to Cal, and I really didn't let anybody know I was 22. It wasn't an age thing. I just didn't want people always coming up to me and saying, "Hey, can you get us alcohol?" Because I had no interest in getting anybody any alcohol ever. So go to a party on a Friday or Saturday, get your alcohol there. I didn't even go to the bars in town for the first couple months because it really didn't interest me. It didn't interest me at all. I wanted to get to know people on my floor in my building, people in my major. I was really rebuilding foundation of my life. I got tired of things back home, people not doing anything, or people living a certain lifestyle that I don't live. Drugs. And, just wasn't a conducive environment for me to be around. I'm not productive, so I was like, I gotta get. It wasn't all negative, but it just wasn't anything that I wanted to be a part of. As we became a little bit closer, and we'd stay in the lounge all the time. We'd be in the lounge more than our rooms. Brett Kern, who would be working in the food court at it was Fox's at the time, and he'd come by. He'd be working late, and we'd be like, "Oh, Kern," and you could tell the guy was quiet. And I don't know. I just always made it an effort to just, I don't know, include people or just speak to people, engage in a conversation. It was fun for me. That's how I was all those years ago. I don't know if I am as much anymore. But some nights, Brett would look very downtrodden. I think he had enough of making the pizzas and the hoagies. There was times where he would bring us pizza, and we'd have enough of Fox's. The Big Daddy was all right, but they wouldn't be making that late at night. Brett would come in to the circle, and he was the only man who would ever be down in his studio. There's it's a pottery studio on campus, and the man was his own major, and he had keys to it. He was entrusted to that studio by the professors, and he didn't do anything bad that I know of down there with any women, but he should have sat him on the pottery seat and spun around a few times, and then went back to his place and then watched Jurassic Park. I don't know what he did on dates with women, but I've heard that he kind of does that sort of things. I'm trying to stick to the timeline as honest as I can. And, Joe Black became a really good close friend of mine. And to this day, I go out there once a year to do fantasy football draft. He went home every weekend. He's a ladies' man. That's what he was doing. He was going home every weekend and just running through the ladies. And I mean it in a nice way, because if he's listening to it and his ladies with him now, he was going home and coaching. That's what he was doing on the weekends. No, he was not doing anything with any ladies back in 2004, 2005. It was really right around homecoming. So it was early October that we all really just started to become closer, become friends at the time. I didn't go out for homecoming. I remember it rained. I believe it rained. I think I got Subway homecoming weekend, and that was it. I didn't know anybody. I went to the bonfire, saw people running. Dan Campbell's girlfriend at the time ran, voted. She didn't make court. Nothing really crazy out of that homecoming weekend. I think I was talking to Brian a little bit recently, and a few of the other guys, and I'm going to fail to name people only because legal reasons. Maybe if I put the word allegedly in front of their names, I can get away with it, but I'm not going to. If they don't fit the story, I'm not going to mention them. I guess you could say that, because I could talk about the entire third floor. And really, what are the chances that any of these people that I mentioned who played a little bit of part in that first year listen or find? They blocked me on Facebook, so it doesn't really matter. You had next to me Jason Donaldson with Kevin Kramer. They lived together. Kevin Kramer would come home sometimes drunk, and you felt bad for the guy because he was small, and I think he was playing up how drunk he was. And later on that year, he would get Vinny in trouble. So we just never learned to trust Kevin, because the guy was a blabbermouth. He thought he was going to get himself out of trouble. And the thing was, Vinny didn't even do anything to warrant Kevin ratting him out, so to speak. Jason Donaldson's a really nice guy, into his religion, a quiet guy. I think he's a carpenter now, like Jesus. I don't know. I know he's married, got kids. I went to a couple of Bible study groups, and not to say anything bad, but some of those people really judged hard on others, man. I just didn't sit well with me. But Jason was always alright. Then we had the Coen brothers, Arlie and Abe. They actually went to high school with Brian. They played rugby. They're twins. They were cool. Then next to that was an Odo. I think his last Ordo. Zach. I think he's a meteorologist somewhere now. I'm not sure. After that was where Katie lived with her roommate, Jackie Sklarski. Yeah, good-looking girl. Was into those type of bad guys. You know what I mean? I think she's married now. Jackie would move out, and Katie would get the roommate, Stephanie Glowacki. Always lovely to be around. Then people who lived on the corner, the one chick's name was Jessica, and I don't know. And then Coppola moved down with Andrew, who urinated on TV, coming home one night. I don't know what happened to that guy. I would see that guy walk sometimes. I don't know whatever happened to him. Then Joe Black, Mike Sunday, Brett Kern, and Dave Levino lived in a quad. If I'm missing anybody, well, there's the volleyball players, 2 women volleyball players who lived on our floor. They weren't very interesting. Nikki Shriver, whose big revelation was she had anal sex. Who cares? Ashley Dixon. Then there's girls in the quad. There's Kelly Catola, Megan Gwynn, Samantha, and then there's Erica. And yeah, they just lived there. You know. But then later, Andrea Watt moved up there because Erica didn't come back in the spring. Yeah, some of them were like your typical party girls, and Jen, that's when Samick. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I think that we could all agree that, you know, because Brian and Joe listen, and maybe Vinny, these girls were nice. I mean, I had no problem with them, but, you know, typical girls of the time, shallow, materialistic, you know, party girls, and, you know, all that partying kind of caught up to some of them, especially in the LBSs. And the more I think about it, this episode will be buried so far down in the archives that nobody's going to really find it after I originally post it. So I really don't care what I say. But my intention is not to bash anybody. I'm just recalling it how it was. That's all. Yeah, Andrea Watt, she's dating like a grandfather now or something. I don't know. Well, you know, when you think a relationship should be, when people put stuff online and it's public, then you have the right to publicly comment. You know, she's had failed relationships, and, you know, just not saying she deserved them, but when you go after something, expect certain behavior. You know, so liars and cheaters, that's what she got. So whatever. Have fun with the bassist from a 1980s cover band or whatever he does. I owe a lot of these people nothing. So I'll say what I want. And I gotta say, I didn't have an attraction to these women. You know, I just thought that maybe they could be cool and hang out. But, you know, no, God forbid. Boring anyway. You know, the majority of that first year was spent in the third floor lounge. You know, I had a roommate, and I debated on whether or not to even talk about him. It's not like he was a terrible person, but it's just, you know, you gotta take the good and the bad when you start talking about the past. And, you know, I'm indifferent. I think we all know how he was. Wasn't a terrible person. Just did some awkward, odd things that were off-putting. And, especially awkward to be around when there were women present when he was around. He would just do say some, I just can't defend the behavior. Once again, it wasn't bad, it was just goofy, you know. That's all I really want to say about that. Oh, speaking of, quick shout out to Creepy Steve, who lived on the 4th floor, who would ride his bike, when the weather got nice, and would like be quiet and have his brooding, presence to him. And I don't know, that guy was just strange. Like, I'm just going to sit back here and I'm just going to be quiet and make a remark about others. And I don't know if the guy's alive or dead. I really don't know. Some of these people I don't know if they're alive or dead. I think the majority of the people I've mentioned are still alive. I hate to see anything happen to anybody. I'm not wishing death on anyone, that's for sure. The main goal of this episode was to show my appreciation for the core group of people, but also just intermittently put some stories in there. A lot of people go through college, they make friends, and then when college is over, it's like they turn into a whole different person. I've seen this. I've seen this happen. People who I knew at Cal, because it was all a farce, in my opinion. Their behavior, kind of wonder anything that they said was genuine or not. I mean, if anything they said was genuine, just because you see the decisions that they make afterwards, it was like they really had no association or recollection. Just like I said, just a totally changed individual. Who I was all those years ago is still who I am, despite of a lot of things that have transpired in my personal life. But I never compromised, being a decent human. There were a few weekends that I ended up coming home because there was really nothing to do down Cal. And that's a story that everybody could tell that's true to this day, that there's really not much to do down Cal. I never made it a point to cause issues. I don't want to use the word drama, but cause issues or complicate things. And, a centerpiece to a lot of that was Dan and his girlfriend. I think that they had made things difficult at times for people to hang out. You just couldn't trust them. I mean, they would get married, but then they divorced, and she's on her second marriage now. They say third time's a charm. Now, keep in mind that here I am, about average 4 years older than everybody, and it's really not that big of a deal. But these people some of them are still teenagers. Some of them still act like teenagers with, the way they decided to act and remark and treat people later on as our years in Cal were down there. There's just things that stick out and you just don't forget about it. You just don't. And, that first year sticks out in my mind, good and bad. More good than bad. I will say that for sure. I could talk about my entire first year down there, but like I said, I wanted to stick to the 3rd floor because you deal with these people from August until end of April, early May. Their neighbors were neighbors, and it was all right. It wasn't as if it was. I mean, I didn't get laid my first year at Cal, so no wild stories about there. Plus, I keep that personal between us. I wasn't Brian and Katie who were doing it everywhere, rubbing it in people's faces. Brian and Katie, hey, we did it in the lounge. Hey, we did it on the washing machine. We did it in the utility closet. We did it right in the hallway, up against the window. Did it in the car in the parking lot. Guys did it everywhere. Well, they're married and have a kid now, so it's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. It's all good. Good friends of mine. Yeah, so Brian and Katie have been dating since the Reagan administration. They ended up getting married. They recently had a son, who I believe is a year old. I talk to Brian every once in a while. I'm trying to get him as a guest on the show so we can talk about things. Because sometimes it's better when two people talk about the time that they had together. Especially this first year. I'm sure we can talk about a lot more. And Alex is doing pretty decent. He's living in D.C. I don't exactly know what he's doing. I don't want to misidentify his job. I think it's working with like I don't know. I don't know if it's something political. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to get it wrong. In my mind, I have the words, but I'm probably going to say it wrong. Joe Black's coaching out in Somerset, Shade Panthers, baseball. He was a hell of a basketball player. Become a very good close friend of mine. We talk multiple times a week, talking about sports. Brett Kern is a professor now, Davis and Elkins. He sells ceramic dinosaurs, and I know he probably has a huge heart-on for Jurassic World that's coming out here very shortly. I know he's, as long as he doesn't pull Pee Wee Herman in the theater, I think everything should be okay and he should still be able to keep his teaching job. Vinny, you can catch on Bassmasters, the new season, him and his girlfriend. They're going around to different parts of Somerset County, Johnstown area, dropping their lures in creeks, river beds, and seeing what kind of amphibians they be catching and what fish they'll be posting online. He just created a Facebook group. Him and a buddy, they do a lot of acoustic covers. They do not, however, do Billy Joel, Motown, or whatever the hell that Step Brothers quote is. I really don't give a shit. It's for the other lingerers. Kevin Kramer dated a girl who had a Miami Dolphins jacket on all the time. I don't know if they're still together or not. He was just, he was who he was. Just a complete goofball. Steffi Glowacki, I have no idea. She always brings that one friend around. Awkward. Don't know what happened to her. Some people, I think, turn into teachers. Mike Sunday's married and has a kid. That's kind of questioning my life choices, but I choose pretty well in life, so I'm not going to nitpick on that. Overall, the 2004-2005 year, I look back and it really changed my life. These people changed my life. I don't think that I could have been in another building at another time with other people and say that I've developed the friendships that I have with these guys that I've mentioned. Now, like I said, we don't always hang out. We've gone our different ways, but I do my best to keep in touch. And, I'll forever cherish those days. They're very prevalent in my mind. They stick out all the time. And like I said, I could have went into further detail, but I went, get Brian and Vinny on the show. We could talk about things because, feed off each other, questions, opinions. I just can't say enough good things about these people and the times that we had. I wish, God, I don't want to say wish, but it would have been nice to have done a lot more. But, I think anybody could say that. You just gotta roll with the punches. I don't listen back to my shows, so I hope I accomplished the goal that I was intended to set out for. And when they listen, they'll let me know if I completed that or not. This is like a private collection recording. I'm only going to send it to them. Oh, and Alex doesn't drive a blue Daewoo anymore. Okay, well, for McGee Uncensored, I'm McGee, and until next time.